Hi, welcome to the Rose at Home channel. I'm Rose, I am at home, and I am so incredibly happy that you have decided to join me here today for the mid-year book freakout tag. I don't know why we're freaking out. I guess because the year is already half over, and the older I get, the faster they go. But that's kind of it. For teachers, it's not exactly mid-year, it's kind of end of year. We've got a new year coming up. I did love that I have the opportunity to share with you my hits and misses from the past 6 months. Now, I don't have as many books here as some other folks do, but I do have a lot of books I want to talk about. So, glad you're here. Pull up a chair and let's get going. And the first question is, best book you have read so far this year? And for me, that is T.J. Klune's Under the Whispering Door. This was actually a reread for me. I am going to be discussing this in about 5 hours at book club. I don't want to talk too much about it because I am going to discuss it in depth at the end of the month in my June wrap up. So if you would like to see that and hear my thoughts on it, please go ahead and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and it'll tell you exactly when I publish that video. But absolutely 100% best book I read this year. So fell in love with it, and spoiler for the end of the month video, I loved it so much more the second time around. The second question is best sequel that you have read this year, and for me that is Murder Under Her Skin. I read the first one, which is actually going to show up later in this list, and this one back to back because I loved the characters so much from the first one that I jumped right in. Look at this cover. I love these. I love these covers. I am so angry that the covers have changed for the third book. I see people complain about it for different series and I'm like, it's not that. No, it's really bad for this one. But the characters, the storyline, the mystery, all of it is so wonderful. So this series is about a detective in the 1940s. She is an older woman, she is ill, and she's not getting any better. And so she recruits a knife thrower from the circus, who is also sharp as a tack, to come in and be her apprentice to start doing all of the things that she can't do, the kind of legwork for her detective agency that she can't do. And so each of these books, they're solving these really big mysteries. This is a mystery where the tattooed woman from the circus that she had been in when she got recruited gets murdered. And it was so good. Such great again, the characters, the character development, the setting, the description, all of it top notch for mystery. Absolutely love this and the first one. The next question is new release that you haven't read yet but you really want to, and boy was this hard to narrow down because there are so many. For the tag, I've decided to talk about Hello Beautiful, and love that cover as well. I keep hearing what an amazing book this is. I keep hearing just how wonderfully written it is, how much I'm going to really care about it and the characters, and it is super high on the list, but it's not on this month's TBR, and so that's why I went ahead and pulled it for this, and I hope to be able to get to it before the summer ends. Okay, so the next question is a release that's coming up in the second half of 2023 that you are the most excited for. And for this one, it is V.E. Schwab's Fragile Threads of Power. Her Darker Shade of Magic trilogy is one of my all-time favorite fantasy trilogies, and this is a fourth book in that world. So I'm not for sure if it is a fourth book in that and just turning that into a full-blown series, or if this starts a new trilogy with newer characters. It looks like some of the older characters are involved in the story, but we'll find out when it comes out. But I am so excited for that one. And I do think I'm going to do a reread of the original trilogy. There's so many books I want to read, y'all. But I do think I'm going to do a reread of the original trilogy before I jump into the new book. The next question is biggest disappointment you've had this year. And I'm not easily disappointed by books. I tend to read to find the things that I like, but I have to say that One to Watch was probably my biggest disappointment this year. I really thought I was getting a body positive novel about a plus size woman who goes onto a dating show and shows the world that love isn't about size, and you don't have to shrink yourself to be someone that other people want in their lives, which is absolutely 100% how I live my life. But it's not that. It's not that at all. And she finally kind of gets there near the end, but there is so much body shaming that goes unanswered. I think I talked about this in another tag earlier. There are just like, where the author puts in like internet posts that are just ghastly and garbage, and there's no response to them, there's no argument against them, there's no nothing. It's just like, I can't imagine that anybody's surprised that those things exist, even if you are small. So I don't know that they were necessary. They didn't add to the story. If anything, they just were kind of trashy. I think it would have been a shorter book, but it would have been a better book without that. I'm okay with her not being super secure. I'm okay with her being on that journey. A lot of us have been or are, but I'm not okay with how much really just ugliness there is toward her in here that nobody really stands up for until, again, near the end. I was disappointed and left with a really bad taste in my mouth. There have been other things that it wasn't for me. This is the one book that I've read that I wouldn't recommend, especially if you've read the back, and so you're thinking that you're getting a specific book when you're not, and even if you haven't. This is a book that I wouldn't recommend for anybody. It's really, really negative for no good reason. Biggest surprise, and that for me would be Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This book did not come out in 2023. I just read it this year. I'm putting it here as a surprise because I've read a lot of post-apocalyptic stories, and they tend to either be kind of like The Stand, where we get this big disease, most of the folks die, and the folks who are left have this big kind of standoff battle at the end that they're racing toward. Or they end up similar to The Road, where most everybody's dead and the people who are left are kind of left scrounging and fighting each other constantly, and there's not a lot of hope left in the world. This is neither of those. So there's been this big post-apocalyptic event. There are people who are left, and they're trying to make the best of the world, and there's a traveling troupe that are going around and producing Shakespeare plays. They're going into the different settlements, and they're giving them entertainment, and they're giving them things to think about, and there's also an orchestra that's part of it, so they're bringing the music. So you're following a group of people who are bringing happiness to the folks that are left in the world, and I just thought this was beautiful. I did not recommend the last one, but I can't recommend this one highly enough. If you're at all concerned with the way the world is and how much ugliness there is, and you're worried about humanity, this is a great reminder that there are awesome people here who really do want the best for their fellow people on this planet. And so Station 11, if you have not read it, read it. It's going to give you all the good feels, all of the hopeful feels. The next question is new to you author, and I'm embarrassed by this one. Absolutely embarrassed by this one because it is Barbara Kingsolver with Demon Copperhead. This is so good, y'all. If you have not read it, it has won the Pulitzer. It has also just won the Women's Prize. It's brilliant. I've never read her before. I know that she's supposed to write really good things. At where I teach, they use one of her books in our AP language class, and so I had assumed it was just kind of highbrow literary stuff, and I don't think I read that for fun. Maybe I do. Now I think maybe I do, but at the same time, this is not that. So if I've not mentioned this to you before, this book is set in the Appalachian area of the United States during the opioid crisis. So it's at the very beginning, where we've got basically the pill mills where you just go in and say, oh, my pinky hurts, and they're giving you Oxy. And they're making buku tons of money off of really poor people, and they've decided that pain management is the most important thing in the world, and so they're getting all of these people horrifically addicted to these pills. And benefiting themselves, but the people are left kind of in the lurch. And so we have a young boy who we start the book at his birth. We're with his parents or his mom. He ends up in the foster care system. He ends up really going through abject poverty in the United States in the 80s, 90s. Mostly 90s, and it's just so well done. It's not trite, it's not condescending, it's not preachy, it's just this is this kid and this is his life, and these are the ways that he copes and these are the ways that he does not cope successfully. It's so good. Another one that I cannot recommend highly enough. If you haven't read this yet, again, Pulitzer, Women's Prize, it is such a good book. And yes, now I do have to read the others because if this is how she writes, I can't wait to read more. Okay, so the next question is newest fictional crush, and I don't really crush on characters in books, sorry. If I adjust the question a little bit, and character that I really would want to have in my life, it would have to, I'm going back to Under the Whispering Door and Hugo. Hugo is amazing and wonderful and sweet and cares oh so much about everyone and everything around him, and he is gay, so it would not be a romantic thing, but I would love to have him in my life. I would love to have more people like Hugo in my life. He's wonderful, and if you have not read this, read it. The next question is book that made you cry, and that would have to be, I cried in a lot of books this year. I am an easy crier. I cry for lots of reasons, not just because I'm sad, but Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng absolutely made me cry. It was a little scary, but also the tears. The parents being separated from their children by the government because they think differently than the government wants them to think. It's terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. And my heart just broke for all of the characters in this book trying to deal with the implications of what's happening. And in the end, I'm not going to spoil it, but I've got tears and I'm reading and I'm just destroyed. And if you have not read this one, it is so good and it is so moving, but make sure that you're ready for your heart to break. Going in the other direction, book that made you happy, and I wasn't sure how to take this question. I guess I'm happy in I'm enjoying myself in all of my books, but I went ahead because I hadn't talked about it yet and picked Fortune Favors the Dead. First off, if that's not the most amazing cover ever, I love this book. So it is the first book from the Murder Under Her Skin is the sequel. It is the first book about our knife thrower and the detective and all of the problem solving that they're trying to do. It's a locked room mystery. It's everything that I love. I love mysteries. I love murder books. I love well-developed characters. I love to be surprised, and this had me for the entire ride. Again, I immediately ordered the second book and was on it as soon as I finished this one because I had to keep going with these characters. Absolutely made me super happy. Still makes me happy. Love this. So the next question is book that you need to get to before the end of the year, and that would be awesome to get to all of them. It would be awesome to be, I don't want to say caught up, but that's kind of what it's insinuating. But that's not happening. I'm gonna have books to read for years, and that actually makes me way more happy than the thought of being done with reading everything that's on my shelf. That being said, book that I really, really, really want to get to this year, there's so many, but I'm gonna say Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. This is the sequel to Ninth House. I absolutely love Ninth House. So here's my story with Ninth House. I started it and I got to page 40 and I had no idea what was going on. And I was like, do I need to just stop? Is this just not for me? Am I not able to focus? And I decided to go back and I reread and was able to really get into it. And for that, the second time starting over and then going back through it, I was in it the whole time. It was brilliant. It is another one that I absolutely do plan to do a reread before I get to this one, but I want to do it really soon because I am so excited for this. And I know that the last book isn't out yet, and that's what's been kind of holding me back, but I don't know how much longer I want to wait. So I am so excited for this. Okay, I think I've somehow gotten out of order, but the next question is the most beautiful book that you have acquired this year. And you know me, I am a sucker for a beautiful cover, but this is beautiful for many reasons. It's beautiful because it's heartbreaking, and it's beautiful because it's beautiful. This was my last order from Book Depository. I ordered it, got the shipping confirmation email that it was shipped, and within 20 minutes got the email that they were closing. And my heart is still broken, but I now have this beautiful British cover of The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I'm gonna see if you can, how gorgeous is that? There are also beautiful end pages in this book. It's a giant, gorgeous map. Look at that. I don't know how well you can see it with the light, but yeah, this book is absolutely gorgeous. It is actually on my TBR for June, and I really hope that I get to it. It might come after the thing that I'm reading right now, so fingers crossed. I'm still heartbroken over Book Depository, but I am glad I was able to get this before they closed. And the final question asks about content creators that I've been enjoying lately. So their first three I've been watching for years. The first is Mara at Books Like Whoa, and she changed her intro so she doesn't say that anymore, but I've been watching her since forever. She does a lot with mysteries. She talks a lot about romance, which you guys know I have not the best relationship with, but she does great recommendations for mysteries, and I love those. I also really like Russell at the Ink and Paper blog. If you've not seen him, I don't think he's quite my age, but he's not a kid. He's an older man, and he reads a lot of literary fiction, or what he likes to call walking around books, and those kind of where people just walk around and talk to each other, and they're not hugely based on action. He has such a great way of making books without a bunch of action still sound amazing. The third one is Sarah at Sarah's Nightstand. I've been watching her since she used to live here in Florida. She moves around a decent bit. She actually was a librarian. I think she now works at a bookstore. Like, talk about amazing job. But she does some really amazing recommendations as well. Outside of books, right now, I love Karen Puzzles. She showed up in my suggested. I'd never watched a puzzle video. I don't think I'd ever really done a jigsaw puzzle after those little puzzles they give you in like preschool with like 15 pieces. And I was like, seriously? There are people who make videos? I'm sorry, there is like a giant, I think, bumblebee like right at my window. Okay, so I was like, seriously, you can have a whole channel on putting together puzzles? How is this a thing? And so I clicked it and was immediately sucked in. I've now, I think, watched all of her at least videos from the past couple of years. The other thing, I am a total Marvel geek nerd. So I don't watch a lot of the stuff that talks about the superhero movies and the geeky stuff because they tend to focus more on the negative than the positive. But the one that I love, because they really only focus on the good things, they really just love these movies as much as I do, is New Rockstars. I love Eric Voss. I love Jess, but she's just left the channel. But they are always someone I check. I go watch a movie or a Marvel show comes on. As soon as I finish watching it, I go to see how Eric liked it and what they're thinking over there. And that's my video. And I hope you're not freaking out for this middle of the year. We've got just about as much time coming up as we've spent. I hope that you have had an amazing first 6 months of 2023. I hope you are also going to have an amazing week. And I hope you get to read some absolutely amazing books.